You're about to hear something no one's ever told you. And when you do, it's going to flip your entire mindset around why he isn't calling or texting first. Because it's not just about him, it's about you. It's about how you've been showing up without even realizing you're giving away your power in every message you send, in every second you wait, in every moment you silently hope he sees your worth without you having to scream it. You think he's not reaching out because he's busy, because he's scared, because he's confused. But the truth is much harder to swallow and way more freeing once you actually hear it. And I'm going to walk you through exactly how to flip the script, how to make him chase you, crave you, think about you before he even picks up his phone in the morning. But if you miss even one part of this video, you'll miss the moment where everything clicks. Because this isn't a tip, it's not a trick. This is a full-blown rewiring of how attraction, value, and energy really work. Not the fantasy, the psychology. So stay with me, because by the time we hit the end of this video, you won't just understand why he isn't calling, you'll understand why you'll never need to chase a man again. And that shift, that's when everything in your love life starts to change. Right here, right now. You know what the biggest lie you've been sold is? That you have to do more to be chosen. That if you just show him how kind you are, how loyal, how supportive, that maybe he'll finally see you as the one. So what happens? You start over functioning in a relationship where you're the only one showing up. You answer quickly even when he responds slowly. You initiate most of the conversations. You accommodate. You adapt. You make excuses for why he hasn't called, why he pulls away, why he doesn't seem to value your presence. And you keep telling yourself that if you just keep showing how much you care, he'll get it. But here's the truth. People don't fall in love with effort. They fall in love with energy. And when your energy says, "I'll wait for you to choose me," you're already losing. Because the more available you are to someone who hasn't earned that access, the more they start seeing your value as a given, not a gift. You become the safety net, not the standard. That's not because you're not worthy. It's because the energy you're giving off tells them they don't need to rise. That they can show up halfway and still get all of you. Let me ask you something. Have you ever seen someone chase what they already believe belongs to them? No. They only chase what they feel could be lost. The mistake isn't in caring. It's in believing that your care should be used to convince someone to want you. You are not a negotiable experience. You are not a maybe if he sees this side of me project. You are not here to audition for someone's love. You're the prize. And when you truly believe that, not just say it, not just post it on Instagram, but live it, everything changes. Because a woman who sees herself as the prize doesn't need to chase attention. She commands it. She doesn't obsess over whether someone likes her. She decides whether they're even qualified to like her. This isn't arrogance, it's alignment. It's clarity. It's the quiet confidence that says, I bring peace, depth, softness, strength, and not everyone gets access to that. Think about it this way. If someone handed you a diamond in a plastic bag with no box, no ceremony, no explanation, you might not even look twice. But if that same diamond is behind glass, under lights, protected, elevated, suddenly it has gravity. The diamond didn't change. What changed was how it was presented. You're the same. You don't need to become more valuable. You need to stop discounting your value just to get someone to notice you. Every time you reach out to someone who's emotionally unavailable, every time you hold space for someone who gives you breadcrumbs, every time you silence your own needs just to seem more chill, you're lowering your own price tag. You want to make him call and text you first. Start acting like someone whose attention is earned, not expected. Start creating space instead of constantly filling it. Start speaking your truth instead of editing it for his comfort. Because here's what happens when a high-value person steps back. The right people step up, and the wrong ones, they fall away, which is exactly what you want. There's a psychology to attraction that runs deeper than surface tactics. At the core, people are drawn to certainty, certainty of energy, certainty of standards, certainty of presence. When you operate from a place of knowing your worth, not questioning it, not explaining it, you instantly shift the dynamic. You're no longer chasing someone who isn't showing up. You're evaluating, you're observing, you're protecting your peace. And that changes everything. Because now you're no longer driven by the fear of losing him. You're grounded in the reality that anyone who can lose you and not fight for you was never for you in the first place. So when you start showing up like the prize, something interesting happens. People either elevate to meet you or they exit. Either way, you win. You stop being the woman who waits. You become the woman who is waited for. The woman who moves forward when energy is inconsistent. The woman who no longer explains why she's worthy of love, because her presence is the explanation. You are not chasing love. You are revealing it by standing fully in the truth of who you are. And anyone who can't recognize that doesn't belong in your future. So the next time you want to reach out, prove your worth, or make yourself smaller to stay in someone's life, I want you to remember this: you don't prove value. And when you do, the right people won't need convincing. They'll need to rise. Let me tell you something most people will never admit. Silence is terrifying when you're insecure, but it's magnetic when you're secure. Because here's what happens when we don't feel secure in a connection. We start over-communicating. We try to bridge the gap with words. We try to maintain the connection with check-ins, emojis, just thinking of you, texts. We create a false sense of closeness through our effort, while ignoring the very real absence of theirs. And all the while we tell ourselves it's just love. It's just being caring. It's just being loyal. But deep down it's fear. It's fear of losing a bond that was never fully secure to begin with. It's fear of being forgotten. It's fear of not being enough if we don't keep proving our presence. Here's the truth. If your presence isn't felt in your silence, then it was never felt in your words. That's where your power is. In your ability to hold space. In your ability to sit in the discomfort of not knowing. In your refusal to force something that should flow naturally. You see, there's a psychological phenomenon called the contrast effect. It's where something gains value simply because of its rarity. When you're always available, always initiating, always filling the silence, there's no contrast, no pause, no space to create desire. And when there's no space, there's no pull, just presence. Passive, unimpactful presence. That's why silence is so powerful, because it creates the contrast. It allows them to feel the loss of your energy, even temporarily. And it gives them the opportunity to make a conscious choice. Do I step forward, or do I let her go? But here's the catch. Most people never give the other person a chance to make that choice. They decide for them by never going silent long enough to be missed. And that's how they lose power. That's how they become invisible in plain sight. Always there, always available, always waiting. And in the end, no one misses what they believe they can always come back to. Think about how many times you've sent the follow-up text because he didn't reply, or called just to make sure everything's okay. But let's be honest, it wasn't about checking in. It was about anxiety. It was about seeking reassurance that you still mattered. And the moment you did it, the dynamic shifted. You gave away the chance to see if he actually wanted to come forward without your push. Now I want you to imagine this. What if, for once, you didn't fill the silence? What if you let it stretch? What if you held your ground and simply said, I've shown up. Now it's your move. That shift, that pause, is where your power lies. Because silence isn't the absence of communication. It's a different kind of communication. It says, I'm not afraid of losing something that isn't choosing me. It says, I trust myself more than I fear this ending. It says, I'm not available for inconsistency, confusion, or crumbs. And what's fascinating is how quickly people respond when they realize you're not sitting by the phone anymore. Suddenly the dynamic flips. Suddenly he's reaching out. Suddenly he's realizing, wait, where did her energy go? That's not an accident. That's not manipulation. That's the natural gravity of confidence. That's what happens when you stop speaking to be heard and start letting your absence speak for you. But here's the deeper truth: silence is not a tactic to get someone to chase you. It's a tool to reveal who they are without your influence. Because anyone can look interested when you're constantly nurturing the connection, but only the right person will build the connection when you step back. That's the difference between forced attention and earned affection. Silence also does something else. It gives you space to see clearly. When you're always talking, always engaging, you lose the ability to observe. You're too busy managing the narrative to see the reality. But in silence, you see who checks in on you without prompting. You see who puts in effort without needing a reminder. And most importantly, you start to hear your own voice again, the one that knows what you deserve. That's why silence is uncomfortable. Not because it's empty, but because it's revealing. It shows you who values your peace, who respects your boundaries, who wants to come close when you're no longer reaching out. And in that space, everything becomes clearer. So if you're constantly chasing connection, if you're afraid that pulling back means losing him, I want you to ask yourself, is he really yours if you have to chase him to keep him? Let your silence ask the question that your words have been afraid to. Will you still choose me if I stop reminding you to? And if the answer is no, then the silence didn't push him away. It simply revealed he was never truly there. So own your silence. Let it be strong. Let it speak louder than any message you could send. Because real connection doesn't require noise. It answers in the stillness. You can spend your entire life trying to prove your value to someone who has already decided not to see it. That's what so many people do in dating. They show up with their resume, their kindness, their loyalty, their ambition, their ability to ride or die. And they believe that if they just present themselves well enough, if they're supportive enough, beautiful enough, low maintenance enough, eventually that person will realize, this is someone I should never let go of. But it doesn't work like that. Because high value isn't something you show through performance. It's not a checklist. It's not something you can convince someone of. It's something that's felt in how you carry yourself, how you speak, what you tolerate, and more importantly, what you walk away from. Let me say something that might hit hard. No one can feel your value if you're constantly trying to prove it, trying to be agreeable, trying to be easygoing, trying to say the right thing at the right time to get the right reaction. That's not power. That's strategy. And connection doesn't come from strategy. It comes from alignment. You don't connect with someone when you're busy with trying to manage their impression of you. You connect when you stop performing and start embodying the fact that you know who you are, with or without their approval. Here's what I want you to understand. High-value people aren't loud. They're certain. Their worth doesn't live in how much they say or how perfectly they show up. It lives in how effortlessly they know when to walk away, when to set a boundary, when to say, this isn't for me. Even if it looks good on paper, even if part of them wants to stay, that energy is rare. And people feel it the moment it enters a room. Because value is never about convincing, it's about choosing. Choosing what you allow. Choosing how you respond. Choosing where you invest your time and energy and where you absolutely do not. Think of someone you admire, someone who holds presence. It's not just their looks, it's not just their words. It's the space they take up without even trying. It's the confidence they have when they say no, the ease with which they refuse things that don't serve them. That's what people remember. That's what makes them magnetic. It's the same in relationships. You can text the perfect message. You can look stunning. You can say everything right. But if you're tolerating inconsistency, if you're abandoning your standards just to keep their interest, your value immediately drops. Not because you're not worthy, but because your energy no longer reflects your worth. People sense when you're overextending. They feel it when you're bending yourself to fit into their life. And instead of appreciating it, they subconsciously start to devalue it. Because in human psychology, the things we don't have to work for, we rarely hold on to. That's why people fall hardest for those who don't need them, but who still choose them. There's power in that. It communicates, I'm not desperate for love, I am love. So if I allow you into my space, it's a privilege, not a negotiation. And that subtle shift, that's where the attraction flips. Because now you're not trying to be chosen, you're making a choice. And nothing is more compelling than someone who knows they could have anyone, but still operates from clarity, not scarcity. This doesn't mean you don't show affection. This doesn't mean you don't care deeply or express love freely. It means your love isn't offered from a place of fear. It's offered from fullness. And when love comes from fullness, it has boundaries. It knows when to give and when to walk away. So if you've been trying to show someone your value, if you've been waiting for them to notice, waiting for them to text, waiting for them to finally get it, I want you to stop for a second, because the moment you have to prove your value, they've already missed it. Your job is not to audition for love. Your job is to embody it. In your posture, in your silence, in your standards, in the way you don't chase after people who don't make room for you. You don't chase. You radiate. And when you radiate value, people either rise to meet it or fall away, and both outcomes serve you. So next time you're tempted to show how worth it you are, remember this: the people who truly see your value don't need to be convinced. They need to be invited. And if they hesitate, they're not ready. And you're not here to wait for readiness. You're here to be undeniable. At some point, you have to ask yourself a question that's bigger than, why isn't he texting me? Or, what did I do wrong? The question is, what am I aligning myself with, and what am I allowing myself to attract? Because the deeper truth is this: attraction doesn't happen in the chase. It happens in the pause, in the space where you step back and allow reality to show itself. Not the version you've been trying to create, not the potential you've been obsessing over, but the actual dynamic, the real connection or lack of it. The problem is, most people don't want to look at that space. They want to fill it. Fill it with effort. Fill it with over-communication. Fill it with emotional labor. Why? Because the silence is too loud. Because it's easier to chase someone than to sit with the possibility that they're not ready or not willing to choose you. But what if you decided from this moment forward to stop chasing anything that makes you feel unsure about yourself? What if you redefined what it means to attract? Attraction isn't about being the most beautiful or clever or easy to love person in the room. It's about how anchored you are in your energy. It's about how deeply you believe at your core that you don't have to earn attention, that your existence, your essence, your presence is already a magnet for the right people. And more than that, that you don't need everyone to be drawn to you. You just need the right ones to feel your frequency and come closer. That doesn't happen when you're chasing. That happens when you shift from performing into receiving. When you stop asking, why isn't he pursuing me? And instead ask, why am I still trying to get energy from someone who clearly isn't offering it? Let's be honest. When you chase, you're not operating from confidence. You're operating from lack. You're moving from fear. You're trying to compensate for what someone else isn't doing by doing more yourself. And the tragic irony, the more you chase, the less they feel the need to step up. Because people naturally relax when they know you're not going anywhere. They assume you'll always be there, so the urgency to invest, to show up, to initiate, disappears. This is why chasing is the fastest way to lose your power. Because every time you do it, you're sending a silent message. Your energy is more important than mine. Your pace sets the rhythm. Your approval determines my worth. That's not attraction. That's self-abandonment. Now I know some of you might be thinking, but if I don't chase, I might lose him. And to that, I want to be very clear: if silence makes you lose him, he was never truly yours. He was someone you were managing, not someone you were meeting in the middle. True connection doesn't need to be chased, it flows. It builds, it reciprocates. It makes you feel safe, not anxious, clear, not confused. But the only way to find that kind of connection is to stop entertaining the kind that isn't. Which means you have to be brave enough to do less and feel more. Brave enough to let the people in your life reveal themselves without your constant effort holding it all together. Brave enough to pause long enough to say, let me see who actually shows up when I don't make it easy. And when you do, you'll start to notice something powerful. You'll notice who initiates. You'll notice who checks in. You'll notice who makes space for you without being reminded that you exist. And that moment, that's the moment you step into your attraction energy. Because now you're not choosing based on fear. You're choosing based on response, based on alignment, based on truth. You'll begin to attract people who aren't confused, who don't need convincing, who don't need to be reminded to treat you well. And if someone can't meet you there, you'll have the peace of knowing it's not your job to pull them in. It never was. You are not here to chase someone into being ready for you. You're here to be so grounded in who you are that anyone who's not ready naturally falls away, and anyone who is ready can finally find you. So let me leave you with this. When you stop chasing what isn't yours, you make space for what always was. Let them come. Let them show up. Let them rise. And if they don't, keep rising anyway.